here we go, folks. Like all of you, Choate Performance Engineering struggles to find qualified help and has become heavily involved in homeschooling programs in an effort to get young people involved in our industry from an early age. He's drawn a lot of attention with the intense homeschooling programs. He is here to share his experience and results with you for you to decide if this is an avenue for you. Let's now hear from Cass. Everybody give me a round of applause for Cass, please.
Are you a president?
Good morning, everyone. I greatly appreciate the honor and the privilege to come and speak at the Production Engine Rebuilders Association. This morning is quite a bit different than what I'm used to. Most of the time when I speak, I'm generally giving a presentation or a topic about some engine failure analysis. And this morning is actually not going to be any different, believe it or not. There's some things I'm very, very passionate about. And if anybody knows me personally, they know that I don't normally have a lot to say if it's not something that I'm passionate about. But this topic's very easy because it's near and dear to me. It's such a problem. It's such a bigger problem, and I think that every single person here, matter of fact, I know for a fact, every single person here is going to have an opinion about this, and it's going to affect you, whether you're an employee, employer, but especially if you're a parent. And but before we begin, I want to do something that we haven't done in the past, and I'm going to ask that we bow our heads in prayer because I've got so much to give thanks for, and I'm kind of reminded that the man that said one day for the guy that was sitting down in a restaurant, he went to bow his head in prayer, and the guy says, "I'll pray over my food." And the man looks at him and says, "Well, the hog doesn't look up to see from whence the acorn fell either." So that was kind of a humbling response, but I've got a lot to be thankful for. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for them secondary. I'm thankful for the Lord, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, that died for me first. So if we'll take just a minute, we'll bow our heads in prayer and ask Lord's blessing. Lord, we come to you this day, and we thank you for your grace and your mercy, Lord, and the things that you've done. Lord, I certainly do not deserve the honor that has been bestowed upon me to stand up here, Lord, and give account and speak these things that you've laid at my doorstep to do. But I look for you and your wisdom, and I pray that it's been given to receptive hearts and minds and ears. The tough things that are to be said, Lord, I pray that people would consider souls, consider eternity, consider all the things that we have, that business is only secondary, and what we do, we're here on eternity. That's the only thing that truly matters. And I pray that you just be with us now and bless this time we have. And that's in Jesus' name.
Amen.
So, I got to start by saying something. As a person that owns a manufacturing facility, I have noticed something. And, whenever you have a problem, it seems like, for instance, somebody in disassembly, or we have to change the name of tear down or disassembly tag, we've got to fluff it up and make it nice because we don't want to offend. But anybody that happens down here that was supposed to do a quality check, and they don't do that quality check, and it winds up getting further down the road, what I see a lot of times happen is there's another process that's put in place, isn't it? Instead of holding accountability where it lies, we just insert another process. I don't know if anyone else has experienced that, but if you ever are, you can say amen. Well, I've got to say this, folks. It's a sad thing today that we're inserting policies and things of that nature because we don't have men anymore. We have to soften everything up now, and we have to make everything very palatable, because if it's offensive, then that's not going to do. We can't have that. Somebody might leave. Instead of holding accountability for where it is. And that's the problem. We can continue to add all these crazy checks and balances and say, well, we've got to do this or that to keep from offending anybody. But the problem with it is there has to be accountability. And if you don't have accountability, you don't have control over anything. And this country is so far gone backwards today because we don't have men. Most men have yellow cotton strings where they don't have a spine because they don't stand up and they don't speak out. And that's frustrating. Every year I come to a conference, and every year it's always the same. It doesn't matter if it's this conference or what conference it might be. But every year I hear some talks and discussions about hiring problems. That's always the name of the game, hiring problems, hiring problems. There's a reason for that. Now, I want to say, Skip, I really appreciate that video that you shared. You could tell a mile away your dad was a man. And he had some grit. I appreciate the different things about Mr. Rushford that you shared. Boy, what happened to that generation? We've become so soft and so puny and so pathetic as men, though, that it's disgraceful. We don't have that anymore. We have equality and equity and all the other garbage that goes with it. And I'm being honest with you, I'm sick of it. But as I sit and I listen to these things, and I look around, people are talking about what we're going to do to get some folks hired. If we'll give them a free puppy and a sucker and promise them of a secret surprise tomorrow, maybe they'll come back to work. It's ridiculous, and everybody knows about it, and nobody says anything about it. But listen to me. I have a small company in comparison to most of you. All of you, you got some big problems because you've got big companies, which means you have to have a big staff to be able to make anything happen. And as I'm sitting here and I'm listening to these different conferences, and I hear people, and I look and they say, what are we going to be doing about Newtown? What are we going to do about Newtown? And we look and it's the same gray hairs that come and go every year, only some are dying off. Someone said to me the other day, as I'm presenting this solution to them, well, what can we do for our members? And I wanted to say, you might invest in granite, because they're going to need it in a few more years when the new tombstone. But I'm trying to give you some things today. Now, I get, if I can't speak about something passionately, I don't care to speak about it at all. If I can't get riled up about the right things, then I wouldn't give you 2 cents for the man that didn't have some passion and grit about it. So typically when I go to these conferences, here's what I hear. Everybody's sitting around in a circle and says, these young kids today, all they want to do is be on their phone and social media. They don't want to work. When I was a kid, I worked with my dad out in the shop, and he had the old flashlight. Not this generation. All they want to do is play video games. Anybody ever heard that? I think everybody's heard that. And the truth of the matter is there's truth to it. There's no doubt about that. But there's a reason why. Okay? That they leave those crowds, and nothing ever gets resolved. We have those same discussions every stinking year, and nothing changes. We keep talking about them over and over and over again and again and again. It's like people talking about the weather, but we can't do anything about it. But there's a reason why the generation has become what it's become. And so I've discovered something. And I'm going to share it with you today because it's extremely important. Now, there's been a tremendous amount of misdiagnosis that's going on. In our industry, misdiagnosing something costs a lot of money. That's something that we dare not do. But we consistently misdiagnose the issue. I'm going to share with you a little story of a man that in the 1960s it was reported that he had sent a letter into Pontiac. He bought a car, a brand new car. And he could not get this car to run under certain circumstances. He bought the car and he wrote a letter to the engineers. And he said, Dear Pontiac engineers, I own a 1960 some odd Pontiac from you that I purchased. And my car will not start if I buy vanilla ice cream. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But the engineers had such a field day with this thing that they had to check it out. Everyone in the office laughed until they were in hysterics about this thing. But he said, I'm telling you, don't laugh at me. My car, if I order any other flavor, it will start, except if I order vanilla ice cream. So, because of just sheer humor, they decide that they're going to send an engineer out. So they send an engineer out, and he said, look, we have a tradition. Every Friday, we get together after dinner, and we go out and we go to our favorite car hop, and we buy ice cream. And he said, I'm going to take you out this Friday, and we'll go, and I'm going to prove to you that this car won't start if I order vanilla ice cream. So they go out, and sure enough, the car hop comes up, and she says, well, I'd like to take your order. What would you have? He said, I want vanilla ice cream. So the car hop comes, she gets the ice cream, she comes back. Sure enough, the man goes to start the car, and it doesn't start. And the engineer's just dumbfounded. He said, this is insane. I mean, this can't have anything to do with it, but it's crazy that the ice cream had, he goes, no, watch, we'll come back tomorrow, we'll do the same thing, but we're going to have, he said, I'm not picking another flavor, we're going to have thick chocolate. Crazy, right? Sure enough, pulls up. Car hop comes out. Sir, can I take your order? He said, yes, sir. He looks over at the engineer and he says, I'm going to have chocolate ice cream. The engineer kind of stares at him. That's ridiculous. Can't even believe I'm here doing this. But the car hop goes back. She gets the chocolate ice cream, brings it back to the man, and he goes, watch this. Puts his key in the ignition, and bam, fires up. He goes, this is the most insane thing I've ever heard of. There is no correlation between your vanilla ice cream and that engine running. So he did a little investigation. Here's what he found out. Vanilla ice cream is the #1 selling flavor. So for that reason, they put the vanilla ice cream towards the front of the store. When the car hop would go to get the vanilla ice cream, it didn't take as long to get it. So because of that, it would vapor lock the fuel and keep the car from starting. Now you go, well, that's crazy. If they ordered chocolate, it would cool down, it would start again. The immediate approach to this is that vanilla ice cream has something to do with the engine running. I'm telling you, that's a misdiagnosis. But America has misdiagnosed her problems entirely. She's misdiagnosed her problems with inflation. She's misdiagnosed her problems with the state of the country, with a lack of educational funding in this country. That's not your problem. It isn't the lack of shop classes in this country, albeit I'm a major advocate of that. It isn't the lack of equity and opportunity for minority groups. The problem is a lot deeper than that, okay? And this isn't something that you're going to hear from anybody else. I can promise you, most likely, it's not going to be heard. But today I'm going to share it with you. Many of you know me and my involvement with the homeschool groups and my passion for them. They truly have been overlooked for opportunity, and they don't have a lot of things that the public school systems have that are given to them. I've met with opposition in this thing in different organizations and trying to bring this to light. And there's a reason for it, and as we go a little bit further, I'm going to share the reason for that. But each year we join up with Chuck and Rob with AERA, and we go out to the Teaston Village Conference in East Tennessee. That's at Pigeon Forge. And I always leave there excited. I always leave there wishing that I could take each and every one of those kids back to the shop to work with me, to get hands dirty and get hands on with these kids. Because I'm telling you, this is not an anomaly, the kids that I work with. It's every single one of them. And you got to ask yourself why they have such intense respect and they have sincerity. It's amazing. I wish that I could take everyone in this room with me to these conferences because it's stark, drastically, completely different than anything that you would see in today's school systems. And there's a reason for it, though. You have to ask yourself why. You can't keep diagnosing this thing as vanilla ice cream because it isn't. Okay? It's something completely different that's causing this. And I appreciate the fact that Chuck and Rob and Randy, they implement something that we all know. If anybody that's ever read The Toyota Way, they understand what Gitchi and Musu means. And it's a word that says that means go and see why. Go look for yourself and find out why. I appreciate the fact that those men are willing to take their time to come and see. But each one of those men that have gone have said the same thing. One of the major, I wish Randy could be here, Mr. Randy Neal could be here today, that one of the major observations that he met, or that he saw when he was there, he looked at me and I didn't even pick up on it. He said, did you realize that none of those kids had cell phones out? None of them were looking at anything. They were just completely focused at what was in front of them. It was amazing how attentive that they were. Let me introduce you to a kid that we met. This is Josiah. He's 9 years old. Okay? If you look at the picture on the far left, this kid, so we took an engine to the homeschool convention at this place, and we were building this little engine back, this little small engine back, and this kid, his mother was looking for him. No joke. True story. She looked at some books, and he was gone. Come to find out, she said, I knew exactly where he would be because he's helping put this engine. I mean, when I say this kid was good, this kid was great. He was so sharp, I was astounded at how good he was with working with his hands. But there's a good reason why. That's because he has a foundation. It's because someone's been working with him. It's because he has a home. But if you look at the different photos, you're going to see that kid up there on a skid steer. He's over here putting this engine together. He's over here milling to go. That kid's got some hands-on experience about what work looks like. The reason why you can't hire anybody anymore today is because none of them have touched the proverbial plow at the age of 18, 19, 20. Keep going. They don't have any experience in work. But there's a reason for that. This kid, his brother's 17 years old. His brother's already built his house at 18 years old, debt-free, and already owns his own home. That puts to shame most 30-something-year-olds or even more that have failure to launch that are still living in their parents' basement. And you wonder, God, I wonder why I can't keep that guy. I'll tell you why, because you can't say anything to him to try to instruct him, because if you did, he'd leave. I've seen it happen. I've been through it. And I'm not one that's speaking through ignorance and lack of experience. I've been through these things. I could fill the time here today to tell you some facts about homeschoolers. But you can easily look that up. Did you know that homeschoolers have increased since 2019 by 61%? Did you know that 1 out of 10 kids today are homeschooled? That's a shocking and alarming rate that has increased. Now, did you know that on average they score 15 to 30% in their 15 to 30 percentile points above the public school kids? They score above average on SAT and ACT tests. Homeschoolers are 42% more likely to become entrepreneurs and self-employed than public school kids. Homeschoolers are 78% more likely to start a job before they're 18 years old. The one that I had come in my shop the other day, I was given a tour. And I said, what do you do in your spare time? He said, I don't have spare time. This kid was 16 years old. I don't have spare time. When was the last time you ever heard a 16-year-old say that? I said, what do you mean you don't have spare time? What are you doing? He said, I got a job. I'm over here working McDonald's. 16 years old. Got somebody to get in there to work, but he's saving up to get a car. Did you know that the suicide rate is 40% lower with homeschoolers than there with public school kids? You've got to ask yourself why. This is not an anomaly. There's a reason. I didn't come here today just to talk to you about homeschool kids being the salvation of your company. I came to talk to you because the problem's a lot bigger than you think. I realize that we live in a world of easily offended people with truth-sensitive ears and eyes that dilate when too much light's given and hearts that harden when the heat of verity is applied. The world says that truth rubs the cat the wrong way. Let me explain something to you. If truth is rubbing the cat the wrong way, you need to turn the cat around. There's no such thing today as your truth or my truth. There's only truth. And that comes from God. It says, let God be true and every man a liar. Well, that's pretty simple, isn't it? The man that jumps from the Empire State Building, he may declare his truth about gravity and can be heard as he passes each floor throughout the window hollering, so far, so good. But I'm telling you something, that gravity's going to have the last laugh because he's going to lead to gravity's facts. We understand that in our industry, all things are subject to the environment. Whether it be a dial bore gauge, a truing ring, or torque wrench, an uncalibrated artifact isn't trustworthy. Yet today we're told if it feels good, do it. Let your conscience be your guide. Trust your heart. But we blueprint parts and components, but never without a datum. Never. Because a place of reference and origin is mandatory. Without it, all other measurements are totally meaningless. When you get a print in front of you, the first thing you're looking for is, where's the origin point? For those of you that are machinists. After all, your grandmother's Bible that's become the world's become too smart for and antiquated and outdated and it's too offensive to read nowadays, it says that you shall know the truth and the truth shall make you free. It's no wonder that we live in more bondage now than any other time in America. If that were ever in question, speak out against the evil in this world publicly, and you let me know about your job security. The stocks of truth are way down in today's market. They aren't being purchased anymore. They're being fabricated and manufactured in the factories of men and women's own hearts, attempting to look like an authentic, genuine article. Engineered for the manufacturer's agenda and pleasure. American people have built and labeled a brand and called it My Truth. Why? It's as worthless as the counterfeit it is. Interestingly enough, it's being bought and sold by the same person internally in the human factory. And it's manufactured by the heart, purchased by the mind, and it's taken over the soil of the soul due to its sowing like cuds do in a Mississippi ditch, so that nothing else can spring forth. As Samuel Johnson said, truth, sir, is a cow that will yield such people no more milk, so they're going to milk the bull. That's the society that we live in today. And if truth can be manufactured, then it's always changing. There's a new model every day. Hard to hit a moving target. There's nothing absolute. There's no more National Institute of Standards for measurements without truth. The only alternative is confusion. And today, American people look more like a painting of Picasso with their nose on upside down and a third-eye tattoo in their forehead that's as blind as the other two, and bones running through their noses like the Zulus chasing Johnny Wasmiller in a Tarzan movie. And the liberals today are running nowhere in a hurry, arriving late and out of breath, talking more and more, less and less, in words that they don't understand, all the while looking for where the bathroom is, where the parasitic, problematic, pedophilic pronoun people are. Yelling, demanding that there are no absolutes, yelling that they're absolutely sure. We live in a country with no final authority. And I'm getting back to the homeschool, but I have to preface it with this. If you consider the word authority, you must consider the word's origin and its root. And that word is author. Whether a pilot with an attitude indicator, a machinist, or a carpenter, there must be a standard in which all things are judged by. Our society, that our society's preached, don't judge, all the while condemning the things that we know to be right. Yet as a country, we look around for men to stand up. No one does. No one speaks out for the fear of consequences. They wave the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, and from the back of their vehicle while burning under anything that may cost them their job. People today will tell you that they won't give up their rights, that they have great conviction. But if you need an estimate on your worth as a man, just tell me the $1 an hour pay that keeps you from speaking out, and I'll tell you how much you're worth. That's the truth. Today, if people were to read the story of the average business's HR department, it would sound more like the old Danish fable of the emperor who was duped by two fainting seamstresses that acted like they were selling the emperor fine apparel, and at last they mimed placing a make-believe suit on the emperor. As each individual staff comes in, they say nothing about the fact that the emperor's naked. And the emperor, so pleased with this expensive suit, decides with pomp and arrogance to go down the streets, and everyone says nothing. Until a small voice is yelled out above the crowd, and a child says, "Hey! The emperor's naked!" And all the folks silent. Why? Because, see, everyone knew the truth, but the child was the only one honest enough to say it. That's where we're at today. I want to play something, and I don't know if it's possible or not, but it is so worth your full attention that I would ask, if possible, that the lights be turned down while we watch this. It is that important. See, what you're fixing to watch is something. Anybody remember, by show of hands, who Paul Harvey was? Yeah. Boy, he talked sense, didn't he? A lot of things he said, I enjoy listening to. What I'm fixing to play for you was from 1965. I understand. It's from 1965. It's from 1965. Listen up. This is prophetic. And this is telling you exactly where you're at as a nation, as a country. And this is the reason why you've got a hiring problem.
If I were the devil, if I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree, thee. So I set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions, just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want it until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing. Paul Harvey. Good day.
I think everybody should listen to that. Take it home with them. Consider it. That's not being said today. That's completely different from what we hear. Everything that was said from that video clip is 100% right on target to where we're at right now. Now, keep moving on. Dooley, I need you for this one. Can you stand up? Where are you at?
Right here.
All right, I'm going to use you. Now, this is, you're a diesel guy, right?
I am, thank you.
Okay, I'll watch this. All right. What's the engine on the left, you know?
That's a 6-liter.
Okay, the engine on the right, what's that?
7.3 power stroke.
Which one's more problematic blowing head gaskets?
That's easy, the 6-liter.
Are you making these judgments based off some skewed viewpoint? Are you making them because you have some malice towards that, or do you have experience towards that, sir?
Sales and data makes those decisions.
Okay, I'm fixing to ask you another question. Okay? And you say sales experience. So you have no preconceived notion of something. It's only because of the experience that you've had with it, okay? Now, what I'm fixing to show you, one on the photo is a liability and the other is an asset. I want you to tell me which is which. Now, you tell me which is which. Huh? That's the difference, isn't it?
Big difference.
Yeah. There's a difference. There's a difference. And people don't want to say it because it's equity and inclusion and all the other things. But here's the truth. The experience, the fact of the matter is that there's a difference. And you can do it based off of experience. So, I'm going to play another clip for you in a minute. And here's the problem. You know, you've heard the expression, uncoachable children lead to be unemployable adults. That's a fact. That's 100% fact. So, Winston Churchill said this, and I do love Winston Churchill. He said, an appeaser is a man that feeds the crocodile in hopes that it will feed him, that it will eat him last. An appeaser is one that feeds a crocodile in hopes that it will eat him last. America's in the jaws of a crocodile because she has been feeding his crocodile. That's exactly what it is. The integrity of a man can be seen by two things, men. It's what he forbids and what he bids for. What he won't allow and what he'll subscribe to. During the War of 1812, the United States Navy defeated the British Navy in the Battle of Lake Erie. Master Commander Oliver Perry wrote Major General William Henry Harrison and said, "Sirs, we have met the enemy, and it is us." Boy, that's self-inflicting, is it not? Men of old are few and far between, though, today. Those who speak the truth without hesitation, without counting the costs of their stance. True men are those that only count the costs if they don't stand. I'm fixing to move on, but I've got a couple more things here in this subject matter that I want to express, because they're great illustrations about men. The reason for the nation is because the men that are in it won't stand up. The reason why we're having hiring problems is because we don't have fathers that raise these kids anymore. Peter Cartwright, a Methodist service writer who preached in the country far and wide one day in Nashville, Tennessee, he was preaching the Methodist convention, walked in Andrew Jackson, a prominent and powerful figure of the United States who had political pull or man of means. Cartwright's deacons came to him to suppress his speech, knowing what manner of man he was, that his words would be undoubtedly offensive to General Jackson. Peter Cartwright took the pulpit and without hesitation looked out at the crowd while his eyes scanned the faces. He, raising his hand, said these words, "It's told to me this day that General Andrew Jackson is in the congregation, and I was asked to speak softly lest I offend. But let me tell you something. If General Andrew Jackson doesn't repent and put his faith and trust in the Lord Jesus Christ, he'll burn in the devil's hell for eternity." Afterwards, General Andrew Jackson came up to Peter Cartwright and said, "If I had men like Peter Cartwright in my regiment, I could have whipped the world." Because he had some grit to stand up for those things. Somewhere along the way, we focused on how to win friends and influence people instead of telling them the facts. Because here's the truth. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but kisses of an enemy are the sequel. There's never been a cylinder, machinists that are in here. There's never been a cylinder that's ever been brought back to concentricity without the cutting of the tool. And the hearts and minds of men are far from center. We must get back to absolute truth and be absolutely destroyed. You know what you home with, don't you? What's it called? An abrasive. Those things are abrasive, but they're needful. So, Charles Mackay wrote these words. He said, "You have no enemies. Alas, my friend, your boast is poor. He who's mingled in the fray of duty that the brave endure must have made foes. He has done small the work he's done. He's never hit a traitor on the hip, never dashed a cut from perjure lip, never turned the wrong to right. He's been a coward in the fight." So where did it all go wrong? There had to be a point in American history where it went wrong. Why, again, are the homeschoolers seemingly untouched by the problem that we have today? I'll tell you why. If you want to see where America began to fall, you have to look at an unlikely place. It's in its highest moment. We call these people the greatest generation. And for good reason. We aren't all speaking German today because of it. Winston Churchill said, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. But the world would change after this, and not for the better." People go, "Oh, not for the better?" Oh no, you're at the top of the hill. There's a lot of momentum to coast. But that's exactly what happened. America would go on to win the war, would go on to win the battle, on foreign soil to lose the war at home. You see, there was another war going on that was so much more subtle and so much more crafty than that of even the KGB, and much more destructive than all the atom bombs combined. And it was dropped on the very backbone of America. December 7, 1941, we'll all remember that was the day that the Japs bombed Pearl Harbor. And our Navy took the greatest loss in its history. But the smoke cleared that day, and America stood strong and returned the favor of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Today, the monuments that are raised to the fallen are there. If you went, you wouldn't see the bodies. You wouldn't see the destruction and the carnage like it was on December 7th that year. And the dying men can't be heard like they were 80 years ago. But in stark contrast, so great was the impact of the forces of the bomb that I speak of that was dropped after 1945 that it broke the back of America. And we're seeing the results of it now more than ever in 2024. Its mushroom cloud still hangs over this once great nation. The lights block God's truth because of it, and it's caused the stunted growth of our people. What caused this, though? We won, right? I mean, we defeated Hitler and Stalin. We defeated Japan. There was the VJ Day and victory over Germany. Most people thought that the Axis powers were our enemy, and they certainly were, but they weren't the only enemy that day. There's subtlety in it all. Now, there's much more sinister plan that lies underneath that most don't know about. See, America has been built on a solid foundation of faith, and she was erected under such circumstances. Even still, the old wicked world we live in today, the conviction of the men that built this country is no further than your pocket. If you were to reach down and grab a coin, you would look at the inscription and you would find it states in God we trust. But Satan did the best way to destroy America was from within. You see, the people suffer oppression are never truly in danger of extinction. Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome were all examples of that. It's the plenty that you can't handle. Winston Churchill said, "We're stripped bare by the curse of plenty." Someone made the statement the other day that I thought was interesting while I was at the ARA conference. And they said, we have these kids that come around and we try to put up a booth. And we'll put up a booth and the parents will come, they're well-to-do. And they'll look and they'll see the word automotive and they'll turn up their nose and they'll walk off because I don't want little Johnny being a mechanic with dirt under his fingernails and they've got so much. One thing that I found with the homeschoolers is that in order to be homeschooled, it's a single-parent income. So what happens is that because it's a single-parent income, they generally are pretty frugal. They're very crafty, very thrifty, very creative. They fix stuff when it breaks because they can't afford to buy new. And the parents are all about problem solving. If you want it, you better make it happen. They don't have the money for a new so-and-so. But that's completely different than the ones as he was saying as he was at the presentation. Because opportunity is a hard thing to offer someone. The full soul loathes the honeycomb, but to the hungry every bitter thing is sweet. What does that mean? It means that when you're hungry, everything tastes good. But when you're full, it doesn't matter who's cooking. You don't want it. So what we have is a bunch of people that are full, and it's been subsidized lawfulness from the United States government, where we are attempting to offer a job, and we're competing, trying to tell a man, look, I'll pay you a fair wage. At the same time, he'll say, if you'll stay home, I'll pay you to stay home. And you're looking to purchase a voter, and I'm looking to purchase an employee. But America's a superpower. Here's what happened, folks. Rosie the Riveter never went home. Rosie the Riveter stayed in the factories. And America put her shoulder to the plow. And in September 2nd, 1945, the war was over. But the problem with it is when the war ended, the years would pass, she wouldn't return to the nobles calling law, and she'd remain in the business world, and there's never been a greater influence in all of human history than a mother. No one has a greater influence. William Wallace wrote these words of mothers. He said, "Woman, how divine your mission, here upon the natal side. Keep the young heart open, always to the breath of God. All truth trophies of the ages are from mother love in pearl. For the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. Blessings on the hand of women, fathers, sons, daughters cry, and the sacred song is mingled with the worship in the sky. Mingles where no tempest darkens, rainbows evermore are hurled. Because the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world." And another verse could be sadly written in the United States. "But that hand would soon be taken, that stayed the youth of yesteryear, and homes no longer the safe haven, and filled with bitterness and tear. Who shall lead the generations of tomorrow? Who shall make the house a home? America's dwellings full of sorrow, when children are left all alone. When the door left open, the robber takes his spoil, and American bounty is with youth." And let me go on to read a couple of things that Adolf Hitler said about the importance of this matter. He said, "The state must declare the child to be the most precious treasure of the people. As long as the government is perceived of the working of the benefit of the children, the people will happily endure almost any curtailment of liberty and almost any deprivation." Vladimir Lenin said, "Give me 4 years to teach the children, and the seed that I've sown will never be uprooted." By the time the average child goes through the first 9 years of school, they'll have spent, on average, 8,900 hours by being taught by the government's program, not to mention the hours spent being indoctrinated by the communism being forced upon in the universities. Hitler once again said to the youth of the Nazi Party, he said, "When an opponent declares, 'I'll not come over to your side,' I calmly say, 'Your child belongs to us already. What are you? You'll pass on to your descendants. However, now stand in the new camp, and in a short time they'll know nothing else but this new community. Karl Marx Communist Manifesto wrote, the education of our children from the moment that they can get along without mothers, care shall be in the state of institutions. Parents are paying them to extract the conscience of the child. Good-meaning parents, they want to give to their child more than what they had. And that certainly was, in 1945, the attempt to give. And giving, that's a wonderful thing, but the problem with it is that it also creates soft people by habit. So, clearly it's seen people today are so far removed from the very definition of education that they'll allow these things to happen. You wouldn't have to go any further than Noah Webster's dictionary of the unadulterated version, by the way, of the 1828 dictionary to find out what real education was. Noah Webster not only wrote the dictionary, but the man also could read and write 26 different languages. So he must be an authority. But he says this, the bringing up as a child, and this is the definition, if you look it up in the 1828 dictionary, this is the definition of education. The bringing up as of a child, instruction, formation of manners. Education comprehends all that series of instruction and discipline which is intended to enlighten the understanding, correct the temper, and form the manners and habits of the youth, and fit them for usefulness in the future stations. To give children a good education in manners, arts, science is important. To give them a religious education is indispensable, and the immense responsibility of parents and guardians who neglect these duties. So, how did it all go down? Here's what we had. We had the woman that now is taken and removed out of the home. So Satan, serpent, as subtle as he is, moves in. This was something that Richard Nixon, of all people, was found, and there's a video, if you want to look it up. I couldn't play it because of the vulgar language that was in it. But he states of the same show you might have heard, a little show called All in the Family. And he begins to talk about how insane this is, that they are pulling down the very roots of the family. What kind of entertainment is this thing? And then he makes note that the sodomy and the different things that the emperor of the last 6 emperors of Rome were the cause of the destruction we see. But the plan has always been to destroy the home. If we go back to the 1950s, we can look and see there's a little show called Father Knows Best. Maybe some of you remember. Even the title demands a level of respect. Many shows of the 50s and 60s, like the Andy Griffith Show, would still hold a message for kids that there ought to be a high regard for the parent. But today, Hollywood would mock the father as the head of the home to belittle the position placed upon him by heavenly authority, all the while we welcome this into our homes. And it went from Father Knows Best to Father's the Fool. As we see when you have a meathead that is living in the home of the man that's doing the work. It is the proverbial horse that's riding the cowboy. And that's exactly what we have today. So how do we fix all of this? We could go on to say in 1962 that Darwinian evolution took the Bibles out of school and caused major destruction. And who would want to take the Ten Commandments out? There's a reason why. It's because it's an attack on the family. Because if we can emasculate men, no one else will stand up. There won't be a country left, people. There will not be anything left unless we have some grit about us. Why is it that I find that homeschooling is such... I'll play you a clip real quick. I'm only going to play a few seconds of it.
You won't give me my phone back? Then I will snap yours. How do you like that? How do you like that? Give me my phone. No, you're too short. You can't give me my phone. Give me my phone. Don't be disrespectful. Give me my phone. I'm being disrespectful? Yes, you are. I'm being disrespectful. You took my phone.
You can watch all that garbage you want to on your own time. That's what goes on in schools today. And then when you have people come into work and you can't do anything with them because there's no respect. These are the reasons why. Because there's no family. Listen to me. Most all of you in here, if you have that kind of mess going on, my father was a great baseball player. He would have pointed towards the 400-foot wall, and my butt would have been on the other side of it. That wouldn't have gone on. I was terrified of my father, but I had respect for him. Loved my father to death. But we've gotten so far away from discipline now that we have to figure out some way to make them happy. No, make them happy. And it's almost like people trying to silence the kids. When they go out to a restaurant, oh, give them a sucker, put something in front of them. And we're doing the same thing at work. It's a mess. Here's the reason why all that happens, and I'll just give you the very last verse here. And the people shall be oppressed, every one to another, and everyone by his neighbor, and the child will behave himself proudly against the ancient, that means the old, and the base against the honorable. That's Isaiah 30, you can read that. What does a good employee look like? Here's the best way to retain an employee. Hire the right one to begin with. Because you're not going to make, a silk purse out of sow's ear. If there's not been any foundation, you're not going to be able to do anything with that. You can do it till you're blue in the face, but unless there is extreme hunger that causes the person, the greatest employer of all mankind is the belly. And unless there's some hunger there that a person goes, well, no one else is feeding me, I'm going to have to do something. This is what a good employee looks like. A family. When I get these kids in, and I'm working with these guys now, I'm working with them, and there is absolutely, they don't know a screwdriver, they don't know a flathead from a Phillips. Nobody's done any work with them. They don't have a father. They don't have a mother. The state's raised them because they spend all the time. I am now starting from ground level. But the problem is it's not even ground level because there is a will inside of them that has hatred towards me because I own something. I'm the business owner, and it makes me the bad guy. But that's because that's the mentality of communism is to take everything that everybody else has and make it your own. Well, you've sat in a class for 8,900 hours. What do you expect? Morals. If any man shouldn't work, neither should he eat. Boy, wouldn't that be nice? We could fix the whole economic problem today in America if we could just implement that one thing. A work ethic. Here's the reason why work ethics are a wonderful thing. Work ethic makes you a productive member of society, sure, but it makes you have a clear mind. Some of the best thinking I've ever done has been when I was working on something. That's good. That's good for me. Here's what paradise is. People go, man, if I get to be 62, 63, 64 years old, I'm going to retire. You know that God put out in the garden, told him to name all the animals, and you know what he called it? He called it paradise. Works actually, paradise. Ask me what day it is, and I'll tell you whether I agree with that statement or not. But it depends. But I'm telling you this much. Desire accomplished is sweet to the soul. That makes me, man, I'll tell you, nothing makes me happier than see people wash your car and stuff and man, it looks good, doesn't it? Makes you feel good inside, doesn't it? Because there's a purpose. Real world experience. People that actually know how to work. I'm not talking about people who know how to build an engine. I'm just talking about a person who knows how to properly sweep the floor. Man, that'll go a long ways. Unindoctrinated from public schools. Here's the other problem. Okay? I had a guy that was a great salesperson. Best sales guy I ever had. I tried to pay him a great wage, but he couldn't stay because he couldn't afford it because his lawyer told him, I'm not taking the second divorce until you pay me for the first fight. But people have now been so in debt they can't come to work anymore because of all the baggage security laws. I'm fixing to finish up here. Critical thinkers and problem solvers. That's something that is I've seen with homeschool kids because they were put to it. Respectful and intelligent. This is mine, and I'll end with this last slide here. These are my knotheads, okay? Love these kids to death. I would die for them in a second, without hesitation, wouldn't blink an eye. And I'd give everything I had to keep them and protect them and provide for them. I love my family, but that's mine. That's my responsibility to do. You know what Social Security really used to be was. That's when you raise your kids and your kids take care of you. We don't have that anymore, do we? It gets more expensive the further we get away from Scripture. But I'm telling you that there's opportunity as this organization is concerned to reach out to homeschoolers. If you want to see, look for good fertile soil. Quit trying to throw it in gravel. Nothing's going to come up. It's not going to work. That's not the presentation that you thought you were getting, was it? But it's the one you need to hear. I greatly appreciate your attention. I appreciate your time. And I pray that that will sink deep, sink in hearts, and make you consider these things. Because as a company for your longevity, this is critical and crucial. It's not getting any better, no matter what you do. It's only going to get worse. So we need to look elsewhere, and we need to be thinking about the problem. We call it root cause analysis. This is the root cause of it all. Thank you.